After the last Q&A with Russian Fishing 4, I'm definitely fishing for carp a bit differently now, and especially in the phase where I'm just looking for a spot in the first place. That means neutral ground bait mix, different boilies, just testing flavors at first. And how exactly I do that, I'll show you. So here at Amber Lake, there are insanely many spots and insanely many areas that probably haven't even been fished yet. And one spot that's actually already pretty well known, but hasn't been seen in a long time, is this area down here. And a few weeks ago, I was already thinking, man, someone should really come back here and test it again. And that's exactly what I'm doing now, just testing what's possible at this spot right now. So I came here and first measured out the distance again, checked it again, so I'm sitting here at around 35 meters distance. That means we're in this area here, roughly in this edge zone. And like I said, about 35 meters. For that, we of course use the marker rod first and cast it out. Best to pick a target somewhere on the horizon, so you're always throwing into the same area. I've now taken that line of fir trees up there as my target, so that's my rough area to cast into each time. At night, this area is even a bit more illuminated, but of course during the day you can't see that. So it's best to orient yourself by trees or something and just pick a target on the horizon and cast there repeatedly. Right, set the marker rod to sink slowly, let the whole thing sink slowly, and then slowly reel it in. And then we'll see what kind of bottom we've got here. And now it's pulling tight. So here we've got a soft bottom. That's already important so we can build our setup correctly. And then suddenly there's a mussel bank at around 30 meters. I'll leave the rod out there now with the marker. That means we'll see in a second. Yep, there it comes up, right? I just saw it was about 3 meters deep. And that marker is at about 30 meters. So we'd have a mussel bank there. Also an option, if you don't want to cast too far, to maybe target that mussel bank directly. And now things are kicking off here in the early morning hours. In this test, I've started with just one boilie on the hook, a soluble boilie. There's a whole series of different flavors, and to test what works best, I'm using only these soluble boilies, and only the small ones, meaning 16 millimeters or 16 millimeters, and I'm testing those now, just to find out what works and what fish are at the spot. Of course, I've got a neutral ground bait mix too. We'll take a look at that in a second. This is what it's looking like right now. Started the first few minutes, then it slowly went into the night. At night it was a bit slower. Yeah, now it's just starting to pick up again. So during the night there was kind of a lull. And now let's see. What's already noticeable in the first few minutes? Most active right now is the honey pear 16 soluble with mountain honey as dip. That's already working super well here. What hasn't worked at all so far is the cocoa mix, soluble with white chocolate as dip. I'm definitely going to swap that out now. And same with, well, let's say noticeably worse here was also halibut and berries 16 with halibut as dip. I'm also going to switch that out now. So I'll go back to the soluble boilies and just go through the whole line from the top. There aren't that many. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 11 different varieties. So 11 different flavors, each in 2 sizes. And like I said, always start with 15 or 16 millimeter ones for testing. Then you can still go up in size later. So we've already done the first 3 now. Honey pear stays for now. Now I'm swapping in crab and mussel. We'll take oyster and crab as dip. And that one goes out again too. But now I'm pulling the ground bait back in for a moment, because there's already quite a bit going on at the spot. Right and out again. That might be something to try more toward the 30-meter range with crab and mussel. If that mussel bank is there, of course that'd be worth trying too. So now on the honey pear, there's already a lot of action and some really good fish too. So after just this short test, you could honestly already switch everything completely to honey pear and probably already have some really good results. But I'm testing a bit more. I'd still like to get more variety from the other flavors. And once we have some results, I can still say, okay, now I'm switching all 3 rods completely, like for example to the honey pear. Then you can really stack up the cash here. What I just noticed, for example, the mussel or the halibut, which I had on just now, that worked in the early morning hours, but was less active during the day. And that's something we, of course, always have to test again when looking for a spot. So if you're searching and don't know what works where, just try the classic, well-known spots. Just go there with a neutral ground bait mix and different boilies, just different flavors, or even more simply, just with pop-up corn. That always works too. Just a single corn kernel and test the spot. The nice thing is that with the neutral ground bait mix, we can specifically attract carp again. We slightly increase the carp population, and we can keep switching bait flavors without influencing the spot with the feed. So if we only had cream, for example, then the whole spot would basically be infected with cream. But this way, we can just test different boilies, and like I said, with a neutral ground bait mix. Right. What have we got here? What a chunk. Come on out here slowly. Now that's nice. Even on small 16mm boilies, we're already getting quite big carp. And that's, like I said, on the most active flavor. That's a pretty good sign. Imagine this with a big boilie combo. You see, it's already working pretty well. Almost 15 kilos. Get it back out quickly. Straight ahead, yep. Thrown in the right direction, perfect. Now I'm also pulling out the rod that didn't work at all, so we can rule that one out. Didn't work at all with Coco. Let's see if muscle continues now. And here come the next ones, of course. So let's go back to soluble. We're through with those. Now on to salmon and herbs. That's another fishy one. And then we'll go step by step. Cherry sunflower seeds, cream, tuna, tutti frutti, and spicy peach. Definitely some flavors there that could attract really well. Let's add the salmon now. Combine it with the salmon, spicy salmon, yep, and straight back out. My target back there, the fir trees, perfect. And just back out to the 35 meters in the clip. You see, there's already activity again on the honey pear. This one just twitched, we'll leave it for now. But the honey pear is totally on fire. That's seriously nice, and all that on such a small size. You could really scale this up now and even put it in the ground bait mix. And that's exactly what we're going to look at now. We'll definitely mix in a honey component. If we know this flavor works, then of course we adjust the ground bait mix more toward this honey flavor after the test. Let's take a look. So this feed here, this is the basic feed, and you can see all the basic aromas and components are included. Wheat bran is a good high-quality base, as I've said many times in previous videos. Corn is of course also an option. Peas you can also use. Maybe even rye bran, or maybe even hemp seed meal. But as mentioned, the classic carp components, pea, corn, wheat bran, rye, these are the four that keep working really well. Really classic for typical carp. Now I've also added corn again, just like in the base. So corn, pea, then I've added pumpkin seeds, and there's a nut mix in here too, and all of that on linseed oil base. These are also flavors that actually work for the grass carp, and accordingly I've already had a grass carp on here too. But also things like a leather carp, that works here too, which makes the whole thing interesting again. Linear carp was also in the mix, and that's all active again now. So the honey pear is totally on fire the whole time here. So this would already be a flavor to keep testing. We recently had another temperature change from cold back to normal weather. So if you want to stand here and test it for a bit, maybe at other spots too, just try the honey pear again. And after this fish, I'm going to scale the whole thing up again. There's another common carp, yep. And after testing the flavors, there's always the test of rig types, because the rig types also have like factors for the fish. That means in 1 week, the classic hair rig might work better. On other days, maybe the pop-up brick works better. So that can change within days or with weather conditions, that these rig like factors are actually different. What we of course need when we want to use it as soluble is the option to use sinking boilies. And of course, we don't have that many rigs for that. That means we have here now the classic hair rig. But you can also use a snowman rig really well. I personally use it very often. At Copper Lake, snowman rig with small boilies, and then in combination with a pop-up rig. And now I have here honey pear pop-up as well again, and I'll try that now. So snowman rig with honey pear as soluble, and honey pear pop-up, the whole thing again here on the mountain honey. And now I'll first test if this combination also works like that with the snowman rig. If that doesn't work, of course I'll go back to the classic hair rig. and just keep testing with the classic hair rig. And then either put neutral boilies on it, neutral pellets you can also use of course, or you take again a special honey component or pear component to go with it. Well look, first bite already. Also here we just freshly cast this one out. This is the salmon and herb combination. Yes, and you can just see how great it works when you have a neutral feed. You can nicely test different aromas again and again and just go through the different aromas here. See what works best. And you're not fixed on one spot with one single aroma, and you've basically only got coconut cream in the feed mix and nothing else. And then the spot is completely laid out with coconut cream, and then of course nothing else can work anymore if only one aroma dominates the spot. So go into it relatively simple. Also here in this case again, a short leader, just a size 1 hook, because there should also be a good frequency here. And a size 1 hook is already really good. 16mm boilies, not that big. So relatively simple. Also here, not directly start with combinations, just one boilie, just one dip with it, and then of course the feed to go with it. And it doesn't matter if the feed is in ball shape when you don't have PVA yet, or if it's a rocket, that doesn't matter at all. Or maybe you use a method feeder. Method feeder also always practical. Whether it's just for pre-baiting or something, just test it. Also works really well. And then like I said, with such a basic feed mix, out with it, off to the spot, and test it. So I'll keep testing here, but I'm already very convinced that the combination with the honey pear will also bring significantly bigger fish. And accordingly, we'll maybe change the whole thing up a bit in a moment, with a combination that maybe also includes honey pear specifically again. Here, mountain honey feed pellets would definitely be a possibility. And then also sweet pear again. That means here we'd have 2 feed pellets again in the basic feed mix. And of course we could also adjust the dip a bit, just again with honey. And already the whole feed mix would be even more specifically adjusted to the bait that's working. And that way you could pre-bait it even more specifically to the aroma we already figured out earlier. So, off to Amber Lake, off to Bear Lake, off to the Old Fortress, off to waters where you go carp fishing, or where you just use a feed mix for the different fish. Because in theory, that applies to all fish. What we need to find out, which aroma works for the boilie, and we test that with a neutral feed mix that appeals to as many fish as possible. And accordingly, we quickly find new spots and can then fish successfully there. Out with it. If you liked it, leave a thumbs up, don't forget to subscribe, helps me a lot. And then we'll see each other in the next video, or maybe in the live stream, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, always from 7 p.m. Tight lines.